My presentation. The topic of my presentation is the ethical dilemma of Google in China. Before we get started, let me give you a quick breakdown of what we will talk about. We will talk about inclusion, background of Google, ethics and leadership, ethical dilemma and leadership. Google in ethical dilemma, conflicting issue between the sentiments of Chinese people. Role of Sundar Pichai and Sergey Brin, leadership in Google and ethical dilemma, applications of Chinese categorical imperative application of any Rand's objective view, Aristotle's thoughts and Google dilemma, impact of ethical dilemma on leadership in Google, approaches to handle ethical dilemma, resolving ethical dilemma recommendations to Google, conclusion. Now let's make a start. Many companies around the world are facing ethical dilemma over the past decade. Google has faced criticism as a result. Leadership is integrity in ethical dilemma. The focus of this presentation is to discuss the ethical dilemma of Google and the later role. It will undertake theoretical analysis and practical applications. In terms of Google background, it was one of the most successful companies. It attributes its success to its leaders. It was founded in 1998, and ever since then the operations have full ups and downs. Sergey Brin and Sundar Pichai have been facing ethical dilemma situations. Regarding ethics and leadership, it relates to what is good or bad, and it deals with moral obligation. A leader plays a crucial role in maintaining ethics. Ethics is about being the best, and the leader has to ensure that. It refers to ability of leaders to maintain practices, beliefs, and standards of behavior. With respect of ethical dilemma and leadership, leadership face ethical dilemma when they must choose between two unfavorable alternatives. Leaders facing ethical dilemma have to defeat their decisions. Ethical dilemma can vary in intensity and size, and ethical dilemma has landed the leaders of Google in moral struggles. Regarding Google in particular, in 2018, news came about Google to launch Chinese search engine. It seemed against the Great Firewall of China. Google earlier removed the service from China, saying that freedom of speech. But again, it aimed to relaunch censored search engine and get into partnership with Chinese entity. Now let's move on to the conflicting issues. The approach of Google in China was highly criticized by Chinese authorities and Google employees. It was criticized before from being ignoring its ethical values to make more money. It was being arrogant that it ignored institutional laws. Top leaders like Sergey and Sandra Pichai remained silent on the issue. Silence of leadership resulted into conflict situations. This is really hurts the sentiments of Chinese people. 8 years back, Google criticized the Chinese government. It asserted that China doesn't give freedom of speech. It withdrew its service, blaming China for not being smart in its approach. It blamed the Chinese people for keeping silence and not raising voice. The Chinese people get hurt and discouraged Google. Now let's talk about the leadership and ethical dilemma in China. Sundar Pichai was one of those leaders who put forward the idea to again internal service in China. Sergey Brin focused on implementing the strategies to start operations in China, but both of them did not respond to any media questions on the ethical issues. Their silence made the situation worse for the company. Leadership in Google is very strong and something that has enabled the company to achieve success. But at the time of this ethical dilemma, the leaders opted to be silent. As per the ethical principles, it is important for leaders to provide justification for decisions. Their leadership was questioned because they did not reform their ethical dilemma. Now let's focus on some theories. Firstly, it is the categorical imperative. It is called the golden rule and focuses on training others the way company wishes to be treated. In this case, it can be said that the leaders in Google did not apply the categorical imperative. In the end, the leader decided to ignore the dilemma situation. The leaders did not focus on consequentialist thinking. In terms of any race objective view, this stresses on selfish act. In this case, it is clearly applicable. The leaders were less involved with action and decision-making process. The company took decisions to increase profit and ignore its ethical integrity. However, there's also have the same thoughts of to the Aristotle thought and Google dilemma. Nothing different. Let's now talk about the impact of ethical dilemma on leadership in Google. This ethical dilemma disgraced the top leader of Google, including Sundar Pichai. Earlier, he was considered as a man of values. This decision from him even got him attack of not classic leader. In order to handle ethical dilemma, there was two different approaches to solve ethical dilemma. Firstly, focus on political consequences. Secondly, focus on the actions. The leaders must predict the particle consequence of search engine in China. In addition, there's a three-step process that can help solve ethical dilemma. They are focused on particle consequence, and decision making. Regarding how to solve the ethical dilemma, author jumping 5 questions could guide Sundar Pichai in resolving ethical dilemma. What's the facts? What can you guess about the facts you don't know? What do the facts mean? What does problem look like through the eyes of people involved? What will happen if you choose one thing rather than another? In terms of recommendations of Google, it is recommended to Sundar Pichai that he must take into consideration the statements of Chinese people and respect to it while making decisions. It is recommended that the company must adhere to its ethical policies and practices while making any decision. Following universal ethical principles is of utmost significance. Now let's summarize what we have talked about so far. Ethical dilemma faced by Google and its leader has result in affecting overall business. To return to China, it is important for the company to ensure respecting the integrity of the state. The leader have focused on profitability of the company. The market share the company capitalized. The leader focused criticism. This brings an end to my presentation. Thanks. Here's references. Thank you.